Before there was time, before there was anything, there was nothing. And before there was nothing, there were monsters.
Torture is the deliberate and systematic infliction of severe physical or psychological pain and suffering upon an individual as a means of punishment, intimidation, coercion, or to obtain information. It involves intentionally causing intense distress, anguish, and harm to the victim, often with the aim of breaking their will or forcing them to comply with certain demands. One would think that there is no faster way to push someone into the devil's hands than to restrict one's freedom and damage the body. We have accounts throughout time about the effects of being tortured or imprisoned, the most infamous and recent one being the Holocaust. Not every prisoner looks the same after torture. Depending on the duration of captivity, its extremeness, and the humanity of the captor, a human can exhibit different physical deficiencies. The Dachau camp, for one, was established in the early stages when Hitler assumed power in the 1930s. It was initially one for political prisoners, such as communists and socialists. The infamous Auschwitz was opened later during the Second World War in 1940. Nazi Germany was already on course to mass exterminate the imprisoned humans. Auschwitz was liberated in the midst of winter in 1945. We have photos taken of the prisoners by the Allied soldiers that clearly show us how someone looks like after long and very challenging time in a Nazi camp. Those figures we observe can barely be described as a typical human being. The prisoners seem ghostly, as if drawn by a painter with a nihilistic and dreary vision. Griffith had a similar condition. He was not only underfed, Griffith was sexually abused. His skin was cut deep to the muscle tissue. He was mocked with an imitation helmet of his real one, and most of all, his hands and tongue were a particular aim of the torturer, so that Griffith cannot be a competent warrior and leader of warriors ever again. In a metaphorical way, the throwing away of Griffith's Behelit is a direct image of his destiny and the future being thrown away and down the sewers. Why let Griffith be tortured? Because in order to turn him into the demonic femto, one of the five of the God Hand, you had to put him through something truly horrible. It is interesting to point out that Griffith's counterpart, Guts, also lives through extreme circumstances that are both damaging for his psyche and physique, yet he still holds out and struggles onwards. But that topic is for another time. The story doesn't show much more of Griffith's torture after the initial weeks. Time just goes by. 1 year. Every day, the free man roams the world and proceeds to reap the fruits of freedom. The prisoner endures another day of pain. That hopelessness that no one will ever come and the fear that you will not die soon become normality. It is difficult to comprehend how such circumstances influence the mind. Superficiality and lack of feeling, so disgusting that one finally felt like creeping into a hole and neither hearing nor seeing human beings anymore. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Once Guts and the rest find him, it's too late for anything to be saved in Griffith. Both his spirit and body had already been through repeated hell. So much so, the only thing he could have possibly asked for was to be killed. The viewer doesn't even get to see his face. For a heightened dramatic effect, it is never shown. That leaves it all to our imagination to interpret how he looked like, judging by the reaction of Guts and Judo. Griffith's face was probably heavily tired and disfigured. As we see in the pictures of the Holocaust camps, if you want to truly torture a human being, exhaust his body to oblivion. Strip them of everything they have: dignity, pride, beauty, strength, energy. Such treatment leaves them to be mere shells of themselves. And it only brings out the ugliest extreme of the human body and its limits. Though, of course, it also shows the nastiest part of human nature, being able to torture. Because torture is the knowledge about time and psychology. If you inflict pain again and again, you will reach very curious and very interesting ones for those who are sick enough to try to reach them. The evil thing about it is that it is an end in and of itself. Other animals generate stressful situations for other individuals in an attempt to gain resources or something else. Only Homo sapiens cause suffering just for the sake of it, out of curiosity. Miura was not quite interested in depicting the methods of the torture, but rather its consequences. A prideful man like Griffith merely turns into a monster after seeing what is left for him in the world. He struggles to piece back anything he can from his broken self. This is the biggest challenge for him, because even he couldn't have foreseen what effect torture would have on him. Remember, the Behelit is activated at the lowest point of one's life. Griffith got to activate it later after experiencing the shell of himself he now was. Pride didn't let him live like that. He wanted to kill himself, but destiny had other plans for him, darker and more bloody ones. For the sake of the White Falcon, Griffith.
Before there was time, before there was anything, there was nothing. And before there was nothing, there were monsters.